Hi everyone, I'm Ingrid from Binary Star Astrology, and today I'm going to talk about this month, February of 2024, with all of the planets going into Aquarius, Venus, Mars, Mercury, going over the Pluto, which is already in Aquarius. So this presents us with very interesting love connections, love energy for the month of February. And so in this video, I'm going to go into Plato's chart. We'll look at his chart, and we'll also look at the Symposium he wrote, which is a symposium about love. Finding a nativity or a birth chart for Plato was a little bit difficult, but I managed to find some information on his natal chart on Aaron Cheek's website. In a book, Julius Fermentus Maternus gives an account of Plato's chart, and he is an astrologer in the 5th century. He gives quite a bit of detail. He says, the ascendant is in Aquarius, Mars, Mercury, and Venus are conjunct the ascendant in Aquarius. Jupiter is on the descendant in Leo, the Sun is in Pisces, the Moon in Gemini, and Saturn is in Libra. So I had to do a bit of digging, but I found a chart in 1697 BC, and this is quite a bit off from what they say Plato's birthday was, around 300 and something BC. So either it's his chart or it is a mythical chart or a chart that exemplifies the Platonic energy. But we're going to use this chart because it is a bit of a repetition of what is going on right now in February. We have Mercury, Venus, Mars in Aquarius, just as he has in his chart. And Pluto is in Aquarius this month, but in his chart, Pluto is in Scorpio, squaring Venus. So a little bit of the same energy, but with much more of a tension. So Plato wrote the Platonic dialogues, and one of the dialogues that he wrote was called Symposium. And this is a picture depicting the story of Symposium. So what is Symposium all about? So in the dialogue Symposium, Plato's Symposium, it is a dialogue about the nature of love. And this symposium happens, what a symposium is basically a party, and it's a drinking party where the elite and the brightest minds come together and they discuss topics of a particular topic, and they drink. And so at this symposium, they are getting together, and it's actually coming about because of Agathon. Agathon has just won a prize, and he's won a prize for his tragedy that he's written, and now they want to get together and they want to drink and have fun and discuss ideas. So they get together for this drinking party. On the way to the party, Socrates is walking along, and he has a thought. He has a deep thought, and so he stops and he's thinking about his thought. He ends up being late for the party. And while he gets to the party, they're already seated, they're already eating, they're already drinking, and he's finally there. But he's sort of more concerned about his thoughts and his soul than he is about drinking and partying. And actually everybody is sort of like wiped out because they've been partying the night before. And so they have a discussion and they decide, let's not get drunk. Why don't we drink, but we won't get drunk, and we'll discuss love. Let's talk about love and what love is. So that's what they do. They decide, we're not going to drink, we're not going to have women, we're going to just hang out and we're going to talk about love. First person to give a speech is Phaedrus. Phaedrus is like this handsome guy, and he gets up and he's the first to speak. So his speech is somewhat short, and he just says, love is God. And it's virtuous, and love is something that motivates us to virtues, to Homeric virtues. And they all clap, and he sits down, he's got his drink, and the next person gets up. And the next person is Pausanias. And I'm sorry if I'm saying the names wrong. They're Greek and they're difficult for me to say. But they're up there on the screen. So his name is Pausanias. And he says yes, love is God. And he sort of improves on this, and he says love is to bring about the reconciliation of harmony and freedom, and it's to reconnect us inside. And so he adds to this idea that yes, love is God. Aristophanes is next, and Aristophanes is, he's a drunk, he's a womanizer, he's a lover of all things hedonistic, and he's also a comic. And so he gets up and he starts to speak, but he's got the hiccups and he can't get his speech out. And he's he's frustrated, and he turns to another one of the members at the party who is a doctor, and he says, how do I get rid of these hiccups so I can say my speech? And so the doctor tells him a bunch of things, physical things really, and one of them is to tickle his nose with a feather. And so he goes off to do these sort of physical remedies to be able to say his speech. And in the meantime, this doctor says his speech. So the doctor's name is Erigzemius. And so Erigzemius, he says, well, actually, getting drunk and all of these sort of bodily things are bad for the body. And love is something that brings unity, it brings health back to the body. So it brings back together these sort of discordant elements within us, and it brings into us health when we can do discordant elements back together. And so this is sort of like the glue that brings us back together, and so this glue is little love. So finally, Aristophanes gets rid of the hiccups and he gets up to say his speech. He says, okay, well, actually, this is all related to a myth, which is actually true. In the beginning, human beings were beings with 2 heads and 4 arms and 4 legs. And the way we got around was by doing cartwheels. And either you were 2 men, or you were 2 women, or you were a man and woman. And what we did was we tried to be like gods, and in this quest to be like gods, the god Zeus said, hell no, and he split us in half. And so what love is, it's a yearning to find our other half. And he says, well, you know, and it was like we had this we're in this constant state, like having sex, and so that's love. That's what we're after. And this yearning for this other person is what love is. It's to bring us these split parts of ourselves back together again. And so for him, love is this physical thing. So then it's Agathon's turn, and Agathon is the one who's holding the party. And he gets up and he says, well, you know, love is actually the source of wisdom and courage and moderation and justice. And so he brings in the Platonic virtues, and that's what love is. And then he sits down. And finally, Socrates gets up. Socrates says that he learned what love is from Diatom, who is this woman who taught him everything he knows about love. He says that it's not God because it consists of this yearning. It is the space between humans and love. It's this yearning space that makes us want to attain this godliness. And so it is connected to developing our soul. And so love is this quality of the soul, we are attracted to one another. We are attracted not to the physicality, but to the soul. And the soul doesn't matter. And actually, Socrates was said to not be a very good-looking man. And so it doesn't matter if you're good-looking or you're physically attractive, but this quality within is what is developed and what is the love that's within, and that love is an attractive component within. It's almost like having God within us, but it's something we have to strive towards. And so that's what Socrates says. And so that's the last speech. Right at the end of the speeches, another guy shows up, and he's a politician, and his name is Asclepius. And Asclepius, he's a really attractive guy. He's like really attracted to Socrates, and he shows up and he's like, everybody, what are you doing? You're not drinking. Everybody's sober. Let's all get drunk. And so he kind of shows up and tempts everybody to give up their resolve at the beginning of the party of not getting drunk, of just discussing love. And they have this moment where they have to choose between this striving to be this God or this physical emanation of what love is, and they decide to get drunk. He doesn't give a speech, but he is curious about why Socrates isn't in love with him. He's very much in love with Socrates. And Socrates says he's not in love with the physical, he's in love with the soul, and he is soulless. So he does have a moment where he questions whether he should develop his soul, but then decides against it. And he is actually the politician who ends up leading his country and his people into war and to their demise. So while everybody is following him, he's taking them into their demise. What's interesting is if you ask Alcibiades or Alciphadus what Plato said about love, they would likely say what we say now, that Platonic love is love between friends. It's the love that doesn't contain any sex, or it's just somebody you are mildly attracted to. And this is actually not at all what Platonic love is. The water inside the cup of Aquarius signifies spirit, and we see Plato talking about developing the spirit. Pluto is squaring Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and this is a huge transformation of the spirit. He speaks of an idealism that is very much Aquarius, of rising to meet up to God, to become like God, and to develop our soul, our spirit like God, and return to a God source through a transformation of the intellect. He learns all that he knows about love through a woman who has initiated him into these mysteries, and so this is not a Platonic love in the way that we imagine it today. So I think you can see love in Aquarius isn't just friends. And I know a lot of people are thinking, as we move into the age of Aquarius and as we move into this month, that love might be very cold and distant. We might be having relationships with our AI or our computers or our screens. And actually there's this deep potential for what really Platonic love is, this deep, soulful, spiritual connection to ourselves. And once we have this deep spiritual connection with ourselves, we have the potential to have that with others. I hope you enjoyed today's video looking at Aquarius love and Plato's Symposium, and Plato with all of his Aquarius planets expressing that Platonic love. Platonic love is not what we thought at all. I hope you will click and subscribe and click the notification bell and do all of those things so that we can stay in touch and you will get notified of when future videos come up. Lots more to come. Have a great February. Enjoy the love month, and we'll see you soon.